If you really want to understand why Japan has some of the lowest cancer mortality rates in the world, don't start by looking at their hospitals. And don't start by looking at their genetics either, because that's where most people go first, and that's where they get it wrong. Instead, look at something much quieter, much simpler. Look at what millions of people there do within the first hour after they wake up. Not once in a while, not when they feel motivated, but every single day without thinking about it. Because when researchers spent years studying long-living populations in places like Okinawa and Nagano, they expected to find something dramatic, something extreme. But what they kept finding, over and over again, was a pattern so simple, most people would completely ignore it. It wasn't intense exercise. It wasn't strict dieting. It wasn't some complicated routine. It was a sequence, a small set of morning habits that seemed to influence something much deeper than people realize. The internal environment, where abnormal cells either grow or quietly get eliminated. Now here's the part that makes people uncomfortable, because the first reaction is always the same. Maybe it's just genetics. And honestly, that's a very convenient belief, because if it's genetics, then there's nothing to change, nothing to take responsibility for, nothing to think about. But reality doesn't support that idea. Because when Japanese families move to Western countries and slowly adopt different habits, something very predictable happens. Their cancer rates begin to rise. Not slightly, noticeably. And it doesn't take centuries. It happens within 1 or 2 generations. Same DNA, different outcome. Which tells us something very clear. This isn't genetic protection. It's behavioral influence. It's what people do every single day, shaping what happens inside their body over time. And once you understand that, you start seeing health very differently. Because your body, right now, is not fixed. It's not static. It's active. Every second, millions of cells inside you are dividing. And every time that happens, there's a small chance of error, a tiny mistake in DNA. Most of the time, your body catches it, repairs it, or removes the damaged cell completely. That's how we're designed. But here's where things slowly change, especially after 50. 3 systems that protect you start becoming less efficient. Not broken, just slower, less sharp. The first is DNA repair. The second is your immune system's ability to recognize abnormal cells. And the third is your body's ability to prevent those cells from building the support they need to grow. Because here's something most people don't realize. Cancer doesn't just appear fully formed. It starts small, extremely small. So small, your body can often keep it under control. But once it gains access to nutrients, once it builds a supply line, that's when things begin to change quickly. So the real question becomes, what kind of internal environment are you creating every day? One that supports control, or one that quietly supports growth? Now this is where timing becomes very important, because not all hours of your day are equal. The first 1 to 2 hours after waking are biologically different. Your body goes through a natural activation phase. Hormones shift. Your system wakes up. Your immune response becomes more alert, more active, more ready to detect problems. It's almost like your body is doing a morning scan, checking what doesn't belong. And what you do during this window either strengthens that process or weakens it. Now here's what researchers noticed about traditional Japanese habits. It's not one thing. It's not one superfood. It's a combination of small actions that work together. And that's exactly why it works. The first piece is something many people already know about, but don't fully understand. Green tea. But not just casually drinking it. The way it's consumed matters. Because certain compounds inside it have been studied for how they interact with the body's internal environment. Not in a dramatic overnight way, but in a subtle, consistent way. Helping create conditions where uncontrolled growth becomes more difficult. Not impossible, but less supported. The second piece is something most people overlook completely: fermented food. This is where things get deeper, because your gut is not just about digestion. It's a system that communicates with your immune function, with inflammation, with how your body responds to threats. And certain types of bacteria play a role in how effectively your body recognizes abnormal cells. That's a powerful idea, because it means what you feed your gut influences how your body protects you. And fermented foods tend to support a more balanced environment. Not instantly, but gradually, through repetition. The third piece is surprisingly simple. Not eating until you feel completely full. Not starving, just stopping a little earlier. Because when you do that, your body receives a signal that resources are not unlimited. And in response, it activates internal cleanup processes. clearing out damaged components, reducing unnecessary buildup, and maintaining balance. Now step back for a second and look at the bigger picture. These are not extreme actions. They are small, repeatable, daily habits. But together, they influence multiple systems at once. Your immune awareness, your internal environment, your repair processes. And that's the key difference. Because most people look for one solution, one fix. But biology doesn't work like that. It works through systems, interacting with each other. There's also something even simpler that plays a role most people ignore: morning light. It doesn't feel important, but it helps regulate your internal rhythm. And that rhythm affects when your body repairs itself, when it activates certain functions, and how efficiently those systems operate. Without proper timing, even good habits lose some of their impact. Now here's the part that matters just as much, what cancels all of this out, because this happens more often than people think. A high-sugar breakfast early in the day can temporarily reduce how active your immune system is. Not forever, but during that important window. Adding dairy to certain types of tea can reduce how much of those beneficial compounds your body absorbs. Skipping the fermented part removes one of the support systems entirely, and relying only on supplements often removes the natural balance found in real foods. So what does all of this actually mean? It means something very simple, but very powerful. Your body is responsive, especially as you get older. It adapts based on what you consistently do. Not occasionally, not once in a while, but daily. And the most important part of your day might not be what you do later, but what you do first. Because that's when your body is most alert, most responsive, and most ready to either strengthen or weaken its defense systems. This is not about copying another culture perfectly. It's about understanding the principle. Small inputs, repeated over time, create meaningful outcomes. And once you understand that, you stop chasing extremes and start paying attention to patterns. Because in the end, health is not built in one big decision. It's built in small ones, quiet ones, the kind that don't feel dramatic, but slowly shape what happens next. And if there's one thing to take from all of this, it's this. You have more influence than you think. Not over everything, but over the environment inside your body. And that environment matters more than most people realize. If this made you pause, even for a moment, then share it with someone you care about. Because most people are still focused on the wrong things, while the real signals are happening quietly every single morning. And once you see it, you start noticing it everywhere. And here's something most people never realize. This isn't just about what you add to your morning. It's just as much about what you remove. Because while these Japanese habits quietly strengthen the body's internal defense systems, certain everyday routines, especially common in Western lifestyles, are doing the exact opposite. And they often happen within the same first hour of waking. Let me show you what I mean. Imagine two different mornings. In the first one, someone wakes up, checks their phone immediately, drinks sugary coffee, skips breakfast or grabs processed food, stays indoors under artificial light, and rushes into stress. In the second, someone wakes gently, allows the body to fully activate, drinks antioxidant-rich tea, feeds beneficial gut bacteria, steps outside into natural light, and eats just enough, not too much. Same body, same age, completely different signals being sent at the cellular level. And over time, those signals compound. This is where things get really important, especially after the age of 50. Because your body is no longer operating with the same margin for error. Small habits start creating big biological consequences. Now let's go deeper into something that ties all of this together: inflammation. You've probably heard that word before, but what most people don't understand is this. Chronic low-grade inflammation is one of the strongest drivers behind cancer development, aging, and metabolic breakdown. And here's the connection. The same morning habits we just talked about in the Japanese lifestyle don't just support immune function or DNA repair. They actively reduce inflammatory signals in the body. For example, EGCG from green tea has been shown to suppress inflammatory pathways like NF-kappa B, which is directly linked to tumor growth and cell survival. Fermented foods don't just improve digestion, they strengthen the gut lining, preventing something called leaky gut, where inflammatory molecules escape into the bloodstream. And that matters more than you think. Because when inflammation stays low, your immune system becomes more precise, more targeted, more effective at identifying abnormal cells early, before they become dangerous. But when inflammation is high, everything becomes noisy, signals get distorted, and harmful cells can slip through unnoticed. This is why the morning window is so powerful. You're not just starting your day, you're setting the tone for your internal environment. For the next 12 to 16 hours, Now, let me share something that might surprise you even more. One of the most overlooked parts of the Japanese lifestyle isn't food at all. It's rhythm, consistency. The body thrives on predictable patterns, waking at similar times, eating at similar times, sleeping at similar times. Why does this matter? Because your body runs on something called a circadian clock. And this clock controls when cells repair themselves, when hormones are released, when immune cells become active, and even when damaged cells are removed. When that rhythm is stable, all of these systems work in harmony. But when it's disrupted, everything becomes less efficient. DNA repair slows down even further. Immune surveillance weakens. Inflammation increases. And over time, that creates the perfect environment for disease to grow. This is why even something as simple as morning sunlight becomes incredibly powerful. It's not just about feeling good. It's about resetting your biological clock every single day. Telling your body, this is when we wake. This is when we repair. This is when we defend. And when that message is clear, your entire system becomes stronger, more coordinated, more resilient. Now, let's bring this back to you, because at this point, you might be thinking, this sounds powerful, but can I actually do this in real life? And the answer is yes, but not by trying to do everything perfectly. That's where most people fail. They try to change everything overnight, and within a few days, it becomes overwhelming. Instead, think of this as building a quiet routine, one step at a time. Maybe tomorrow morning, you start with just one thing. You replace your usual drink with green tea. The next day, you add a small fermented food. A few days later, you step outside for 10 minutes of sunlight. Slowly, without pressure, without perfection, you begin sending better signals to your body. And those signals start working in the background, even when you don't notice it right away. Because that's the truth about this entire approach. It's not dramatic, it's not extreme, but it is consistent. And consistency is what changes biology. Now, before we close, I want to leave you with something important. A different way of thinking about health after 50. Most people believe aging means decline is inevitable, that weakness, disease, and dependency are just part of the process. But the evidence tells a different story. Yes, the body changes, but it also adapts. It responds. It listens every single day. And the habits you choose, especially in those first quiet moments after waking, are shaping that response. You are not powerless in this process. You are influencing it right now with every choice you make. So instead of asking, what can't I control anymore? Start asking, what signals am I sending my body today? Because those signals are quietly deciding your future. And if there's one thing I want you to take away from this entire conversation, it's this. Small, consistent actions done daily can create powerful protection over time. Not overnight, but steadily, quietly, effectively. And that's exactly how the Japanese have been doing it for generations. Not through extremes, but through habits that work with the body, not against it. If this helped you see your health differently, even a little, then don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone you care about, because this kind of knowledge, at the right time, can change the direction of someone's life. And if you want to keep learning simple, science-backed habits like this, make sure you stay connected. There's a lot more we're going to explore together. Until next time, take care of your mornings, because they take care of your future. All right, here's part 3, continuing the same deep, emotional, research-based storytelling tone for your 23-minute script. And now, there's one final layer to this that almost no one talks about. Not in mainstream health advice, not in quick YouTube tips, and not even in many research summaries. It's not just what these habits do, it's when their effects start to matter the most. Because after the age of 50, your body begins to shift from a system that can easily recover to one that must be carefully supported. And this is where something called threshold biology comes in. Here's what that means. For most of your younger life, your body can handle mistakes, missed sleep, poor food choices, stress, inactivity. It absorbs the damage, repairs it, and moves on. But over time, there comes a point where the damage and repair are no longer balanced, where small negative habits start to accumulate faster than your body can fix them. That's the threshold. And once crossed, Things don't suddenly collapse, they slowly drift. Energy becomes inconsistent, recovery takes longer, inflammation lingers, and systems that once worked quietly in the background start needing support. This is exactly why these morning habits matter more later in life than earlier, because they don't just improve health, they help restore balance before that threshold is crossed too far. Now, let's go deeper into one of the most powerful systems affected by this, your mitochondria. These are the tiny energy producers inside every cell in your body, and they do far more than just give you energy. They decide how well your cells function, how efficiently they repair damage, and even how resistant they are to disease. But here's what happens with age. Mitochondria become less efficient. They produce less energy, and more importantly, they start producing more oxidative stress as a byproduct. Think of it like an engine that starts burning dirtier fuel over time. Less power, more waste. And that waste, it damages surrounding cells. It increases inflammation, and it creates an environment where abnormal cells are more likely to survive. Now here's where it gets fascinating. The same morning compounds we've been talking about, especially those found in green tea and fermented foods, have been shown to directly support mitochondrial function. Not by forcing it, but by protecting it. EGCG, for example, does something incredibly important. It reduces oxidative stress inside mitochondria, while also signaling the body to produce new, healthier ones. This process is called mitochondrial biogenesis. In simple terms, you're not just preserving your energy systems, you're renewing them. And when your mitochondria function better, everything improves. Energy levels, cell repair, immune strength, even mental clarity. This is why people who follow these types of habits long-term often say something interesting. It's not just that I don't get sick, I feel sharper, lighter, more stable. That's not imagination, that's biology improving from the inside out. Now let's connect this to something even bigger, longevity. Because when researchers study the longest living populations in the world, they don't just look at lifespan, they look at something called health span, the number of years a person lives without major disease or dependency. And in regions of Japan like Okinawa, health span is unusually high. People aren't just living longer, they're living well longer. Walking independently, thinking clearly, staying socially active. And when you trace that back, it rarely leads to one big secret. It leads to daily patterns, simple habits, repeated for decades. Morning routines like the ones we've discussed, quietly supporting the body day after day. This is why the idea of a quick fix doesn't exist here. Because the benefits you're seeing are not from intensity, they're from accumulation. Every morning you support your body, you're adding a small layer of protection. Every morning you ignore it, you're allowing a small layer of damage. And over years, those layers build into something significant. Now here's the part I want you to really remember, because it changes how you approach all of this. You don't need to become perfect. You don't need to follow a strict routine every single day. What you need is to become intentional. To understand that your body is constantly listening, responding, adapting, and that your morning is one of the clearest messages you send it. So instead of thinking, I need to change everything, start thinking, what is one signal I can improve tomorrow morning? Maybe it's choosing tea over sugar. Maybe it's stepping into sunlight instead of staying indoors. Maybe it's eating just a little less, but more intentionally. That's how this begins, and over time, that becomes who you are. Not someone following a routine, but someone living in alignment with how the body actually works. And that's the real goal here, not just avoiding disease, but building a body that supports you for as long as possible. So you can keep moving, keep thinking, keep living independently, without feeling like your health is slipping away. Because the truth is, aging is not just about time. It's about how well your systems are supported during that time. And the earlier you start sending better signals, the stronger those systems remain. So if there's one final thought to carry with you from this entire video, it's this. Your mornings are not just the start of your day. They are the foundation of your long-term health. Protect them. Use them wisely, and they will quietly protect you in return.